I got this crazy goal where I want to try to break 20 minutes in a 5K. Boy, I have never felt so far away from a goal. Your boy, I went out there, ran, and I made it basically a mile, and I couldn't keep up. So I was a little upset at myself and a little tight.
I thought that your expectations were essentially unrealistic.
You didn't know what my expectations were.
You talked about it all morning, Nee. You thought you were going to run like a 6-minute mile or something.
I didn't say that. I said I was going to try to average like 6:30 pace.
Okay, 6:30. I mean, 30 seconds difference.
That's a big difference. If you had 30 seconds more of anything, you'd be happy. Trust me.
Yeah, buddy!
We got an email from Vladimir. I'm not going to say his last name, but Vladimir, hello. Not sure why everything is all in caps. I am a listener of your podcast. It was instrumental in my deciding to pursue medicine as a 30-plus-year-old non-traditional student.
Hey.
I wanted to thank you and let you know that I've been accepted to my top choice school. I really appreciate your podcast.
Confetti,
so shout
Alfred.
out to Vladimir. Shout out to Vladimir. Those are dope. We love those type of messages. I love those type of messages because, I feel like we are slowly getting to creating the podcast that I would have wanted to listen to when I was a pre-med, when I was a med student, when I was a resident, which is giving real value, like giving people like the real feel of what it's like to be a doctor, what it's like to go through the process, what it's like to be married to a doctor, what it's like to be married to a doctor who needs validation, and trying to tell people that, they got you through medical school and stuff like that. Like, we give the real, y'all.
Really?
We give the real flavor.
Really?
You do, yo. Like, you I knew you was going to try to make this into like, yo, I got you through school, and just be like, yeah,
I didn't tell
all
you
the
I got you through school.
All the questions that you saw in your quiz.
I said all
the questions that you saw in USMLE were the questions that I wrote. That's what you're trying to say. And I know you.
Okay.
Oh my God, Renee, yo.
I didn't say nothing about no daggone USMLE. Okay.
All right. This one is for you, Renee. This is one that you're going to have to answer. So this is pre-med prerequisites as a non-traditional student. Are you ready, Dr. Renee?
Sure.
This is a tough one. Hi, my name is Grace. I am writing because I am an older non-traditional student. I have a BA in psych, but my goal is but my GPA is low. Let me make this screen bigger. My eyes, man. Not only I got to get my weight up with running, I got to get my vision up. It's been nearly 13 years since I graduated. Unfortunately, at that time, my child was struggling. We later learned she has bipolar disorder. I had to focus on caring for her. I found myself in need of SNAP, SNAP, Section 8, etc. I am finally ready and able to focus on my education. She's doing great, and they're all grown now. I've spent the last 11 years providing doula care and support to my community, helping as I can to change birthing outcomes for Black women and POC birthing people. I'm assuming that's people of color. Mm-hmm. Do we still use that nowadays? Anyway, do you have any suggestions on how I can become a better candidate before applying to med school? I have to do all sciences again. Thanks bunches for your time and guidance, Nee. Follow up. I was accepted into master's in public health. So real quick, what's a doula?
So a doula is someone that we typically see in OB. They are a non-medical person or medical adjacent, if you will, kind of person. And what they do is they essentially support pregnant women and postpartum women. So you might see doulas, come to prenatal visits with a mom, or you might see a doula during labor, or you might see a doula in a home with a postpartum mother, just providing, that extra support that person may need. And if there's anything more that they do, certainly if you guys know, write in. But that is the capacity in which I have seen doulas. And they can be very integral in supporting, pregnant women. I remember there was one doula in particular. The mother and her husband were both at the hospital, but the husband had very severe anxiety. very severe, like really clinically severe anxiety. And so the doula essentially was kind of the support person to be there in case, the husband might have had a panic attack or anything like that and was not able to be the support person. So
Is
they
this
got,
covered by is this covered by insurance, or is this like something that you pay out of pocket for?
I don't know. I would guess that this is not covered. But I know that there's some legislation out there that might actually be pushing for some of this to be covered by insurance. So I believe so. I think one of my mentors was working on a project like that in New Jersey.
All
So
right. Well, listen.
most of it
Let's.
is okay. But yeah,
I'm sorry. I
so
didn't mean to
first of
talk over you.
all,
I apologize.
no, well, I did get you through med school. Um
Yo, we on minute 26. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Come on.
So Grace, thank you so much for writing in. And I'm glad to hear that your daughter's doing great and that your kids are grown and that you are now ready to focus on yourself and this, career goal that you've, had to defer for good reason. So one of the things that you said that I was listening for, so I'm glad that you included it, was that you essentially took your last set of courses about 13 years ago, because that's important information. Many medical schools, if not most, if not all, might say that after the 10-year mark, that you probably have to take your prerequisites over. Don't take my word for it. Always call the schools, that you're interested in and ask if this is the case. But I will tell you, with the pre-meds that I've worked with in the past, many of them who have had 10 years plus have been told by schools, many schools, that they do have to take those prerequisites over. So it sounds like you kind of already know that. So that, that's something that's out there. Now, you've been accepted into an MPH program. And so this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because a lot of non-traditional students, or a lot of students who find themselves on the path of being non-traditional, oftentimes think that,
Oh,
and
and
I'm not saying,
real quick, because I know this is
yeah,
what you do to me and stuff. Like we assume certain things. So, what's a non-traditional versus a traditional student? Thanks.
best.
I'm gonna be snappy on this call because you over here trying to say that you got me through med school. What? Knee Darko?
You said that.
Is you crazy? Out of here,
You
yo.
said that. You said that. So a traditional student is someone who goes straight through, right? High school, college, med school. No stops along the way. Don't pay $200. Just go straight in. Well, actually, you probably pay more than $200 because you're going to med school. So, whereas a non-traditional student is someone who doesn't take that path. They take a more circuitous path to medical school. So they might have several gap years, or maybe they finished high school and didn't go to college, or whatever, but they fall outside of that norm of high school, college, medical school.
They choose another career.
They might,
whatever.
They might come back after another career. They anything could happen. But that would be someone who would fall out of the traditional path, the traditional.
That was
journey.
you and me.
Yeah, that was you and you. Yep, that was you and me. So I was talking about master's program, right? So Grace said that she got accepted into a master's program. Congratulations on that. I want to clarify, however, the whole master's thing, because a lot of non-traditional students will say, well, I have to get a master's, or students who are planning to be non-traditional students before they even graduate from college might say, well, I need to get my master's, right? A master's degree does not necessarily get you any closer to being in medical school.
But I'm taking advanced level classes.
I want to explain why. Okay. Not that people who do master's degrees as non-traditional students don't get into medical school. You were obviously one of them, Nee. You didn't even actually get a degree, which I'm going to get to in a second, because no.
Why are you putting my business out there like that? Why
No,
you put
that's
my
actually
business out there
very
like that?
important. No, no, no. I like the fact that you didn't get that master's degree because I use you as an example on many occasions with my students because I want to iterate and reiterate the fact that doing the master's or getting the master's degree does not necessarily put you in higher favor with an admissions committee. Okay. First of all, most people who get into medical school do not have a master's. So that's not even the standard, right? That's not even the standard to have a master's, right? So if you're getting a master's in, public health or anatomy or biosciences or physiology or whatever, there's so many different masters that you can get that there's no standard, right? So it's just the master's. The reason that people get master's degrees or go through a master's program is only to show that you are taking advanced level courses. That's it, which is why the master's degree itself is not what's going to get you closer to medical school. So, I like to use as an example. You took master's level courses, but you did not obtain a master's degree before
Nope.
going to medical school.
Nope.
Right? Because you didn't need the degree. What you needed to show was, hey, I have mastery of higher level, more rigorous courses. That literally is the only reason that you would do a master's or get a master's degree. That's it. So I just want to clarify that master's degrees don't get you any closer to medical school because you could get a master's, but if your GPA is a 2.5, then that's not like you got a degree, but you didn't quite master, if you will, these higher level courses. So for Grace, what I would say is, yes, you probably do have to do your prerequisites over, right? So prerequisites for medical school, 2 semesters of biology, general biology, 2 semesters of general chemistry, 2 semesters of organic chemistry, 2 semesters of physics, and then English. And then other schools might say, hey, you need biochemistry or you need anatomy or you need genetics, right? That's like independent schools. So you would have to find that out,
Yeah.
or calculus. Some schools might recommend that you do that. But if you do the first ones that I mentioned, the 2 semesters of, then you should be fine in terms of prerequisites for most schools. So going into a master's program, I wonder if that is going to be more or less helpful than if you just went and did your prerequisites over.
Right. So you're saying in a master's, there's not going to be time to take general chem again. There's not going to be time to take general biology again. All the basics that you really need to show, those basic prerequisites, they're not going to be doing that in the master's program.
Correct. And
Okay.
especially in public health, right?
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, the question becomes, well, do you even need to do the public health program
Right.
outside of your own interest in public health? That's a different story. But do you even need to do that in order to get into medical school? Because if you take the prerequisites over and you rock it out, medical schools might say, well, yeah, it was 10 years ago, but she took it, she took all these prerequisites within the last 2 years and she rocked it out, did well on the MCAT. Let's give her a chance. So you may not even need to go into a master's program. That's my view on it. That's how I think this is what I would probably recommend.
Let's give some
to
real advice. And I agree. I appreciate what you're saying. Let's give some real advice. What if she said, listen, Dr. Renee, do you think that I'm wasting my time going through this? Like, let's say I did this just because it was for what you said. I think that if I finish this program, I get this degree, it's going to help me get into school. I'm not really passionate about it. I'm doing this because I want to show that I can handle a higher level of courses. What should I do?
I would probably say, given the landscape of medical schools and how they typically look at 10 years and, above, not having taken prerequisites, that you probably should spend most of your time on taking the prerequisites.
I got you. So
because you're going
focus on your general
focus on the
prereqs.
prerequisites. Yeah. Because you're going to increase your chances of being eligible to more schools that way, right?
Now what
You
about
might
now what
have
about now what about what do you call it? What about here's the next question. Okay, I get what you're saying. I'm gonna leave my master's program possibly or whatever.
yeah, don't leave on my account. Call around and ask.
Well, but you should do what you can to
know.
help her get through because you know what to do to get people through, certain courses
Well,
and stuff
I'm
or
just
certain
telling
classes.
her based on my advice, but
I'm just joking.
trust
What I'm saying,
or verify. What?
I'm just saying this though. I'm saying this. The next question I have, and I think most people have is, should I just do this at my community college? Right? Take these bio courses, these chem courses, physics. Should I do it at that type of school or should I do it at a 4-year type of university? Talk to me. Tell me.
I did get this question. I got this question from another pre-med asking if she should take organic chemistry. She took organic chemistry once before. She's now a non-traditional student. She took it, I think, twice before actually at a 4-year college. She did not do well. Now she was asking me if she should take it at a community college. And my answer to her was preferably no. Preferably no. Because sometimes, whether it's true or not, but not just sometimes, a lot of times, the rigor with which the organic chemistry course is going to be looked at by medical schools, that rigor is not going to, it essentially is going to look like it was less rigorous, essentially, right?
So you think they'd be paying attention?
Yes. Yes. I think they will pay attention. Absolutely. From having known a lot of admissions officers,
because that costs per credit. Them dollars per
does.
credit.
It's a lot.
Dollars per credit is
a lot. And that was the other
community
thing.
college is a big difference.
So I did say that to her. I said, if cost is an issue, then do what you got to do.
Right.
What you got to do. Right. If you're like, I can't afford to take this at a 4-year college, it would take me too long to save up the money. Take it at the community college and explain that, in your personal statement. Do something.
Because I mean that's a good platform. I'm sure that's a platform for a lot of non-traditional students, right? Is the community colleges, right? Like they are doing, particularly those who are doing a different career, right?
It could be.
They are studying, they're doing their career and then they're going to community college on the side.
It could be.
Right?
Yeah, it could be.
But you recommend 4-year versus
I recommend taking it at a 4-year institution.
Okay.
The other reason is a lot of 4-year institutions are also going to have pre-med advisors at your disposal, whereas community college isn't necessarily going to have a pre-med advisor at your disposal, right? So that's another, that's kind of another perk of going to a 4-year college, right? You have somebody who can write a letter for you, the pre-med letter, whereas, in a 4-year institution, whereas in a 2-year institution, you might not have somebody who's qualified enough to say whether or not you're a good candidate for medical school, or might not even know, like, what's the criteria for getting into medical school, because nobody is leaving community college and straight going into medical school, right? You usually finish up at a 4-year college before you go to medical school. So that's the other piece. But if finances is your issue, then do what you got to do.